So now, after covering the topic of renewable and non-renewable resources, let's move on to the next topic, that is fossil fuels. So we all know that what are fossil fuels? They are the dead remains of animals and plants that were present under the earth's surface, and due to sedimentation process through years, they are converted into fossil fuels. So how do we obtain fossil fuel? We obtain fossil fuels by this process, that is when dead and decaying organisms are buried under the earth surface. So fossil fuels are fuels that are preserved under earth crust as remains of dead animals and plants. And the type of fossil fuels that we see today are coal, petroleum and natural gas. So now, after studying about the fossil fuels, the next question that strikes our mind, that what is the process followed that these fossil fuels are formed. So the same question strikes the mind of the examiner, and this do come in the exam. So we'll be answering the question step by step or in the format of a flowchart. So how are fossil fuels formed? So first, as we all know, that we receive solar energy from sun, and plants trap this solar energy to convert this energy into their chemical energy so that they can use it as food by the process known as photosynthesis. Then these plants are eaten up by the higher animals and the energy gets transferred into their body. So this energy that was converted from sun remains stored in the plant and as well as the animal body. And if any natural calamity happens, so what happens is that these dead bodies of plants and animals get buried in the earth surface, or we can say the crust layer. So after that, the fossil fuels are formed and this energy is still stored in the fossil fuels. Now when we'll be burning the fossil fuel, then this stored energy is liberated and thus we are getting the energy from fossil fuels. Hence we categorize the fossil fuel under an energy sources, because when we are burning a fossil, we are getting energy, so they can be considered as fuel. So as every fuel has pros and cons, that is advantages and disadvantages, even the fossil fuels, as they are very good sources of energy and fuel, they also have disadvantages and advantages. So now let's move on and see what are the advantages. The first advantage is that they can be used for generating electricity in thermal power plants. And the second advantage says that even the natural gas that is produced from the biomass present under the earth crust, it is used as a source of energy. And while using petroleum in fractional distillation, that is at different boiling points in the distillating columns, we get different products like paraffin wax, lubricating oils. They are even used for different purposes. Now moving on to the disadvantages of the fossil fuel. First major disadvantage, that they are non-renewable sources of energy. Until now, I am sure that you are well aware that what are non-renewable sources and why do we need to use them judicially, because they are limited and to replenish they need millions and millions of years. So we have to use them very judicially as they are going to get exhausted one day. Now the second disadvantage of fossil fuel, that first on burning they produce carbon dioxide. That means, as we all know, that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. That means it is adding up to the greenhouse gases or the greenhouse effect that is producing global warming. That is creating a hole in our ozone layer, thus depleting the atmosphere. And the final and the third disadvantage of fossil fuel, that they produce a lot of smoke while burning. That is, it produces pollution and mostly it affects the lungs of the person who are asthmatic, leading to a severe respiratory disorder that can be deadly. So these all are the disadvantages and advantages of fossil fuels.